I can just work it in.
But we'll see. Because it's not, it's on my calendar, but I think it might be.
Yes. We're ready to take you.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. This is the February 1st work session for the Cottonwood Heights City Council. We're grateful to have everybody here, and for those of you who are seated here with us on the table and then in the audience. The first item on the work session agenda today is a report from our Cottonwood Heights Parks and Recreation Service Area Executive Director, Ben Hill. This is I want you guys all to know, this is a really important relationship that we have between our city and the recreation service area, and specifically with Ben. And one of the first things that I mentioned to Tim after getting elected is I wanted to get Ben in here as soon as possible to be able to report to us and let us know the important work that he does and how that fits within our city. So, and what we do. So it looks like We're working on some technical issues, is that right?
He's trying to get hooked up to the meeting, I believe.
Okay.
He's probably going to share some things.
Yeah, excuse me, I have a PowerPoint that I want to make sure.
Gotcha.
Okay. Tim, anything you want to add to with that relationship?
No, we have monthly collaboration meetings with the board director, chair, as well as Ben. Councilmember Bracken is in that meeting. Our collaboration and coordination is very critical. They provide important services for us on maintaining and snow removal in certain sidewalk areas along the parks. And so it's a very important, as you said, relationship, but one that we coordinate and collaborate a lot on. We really appreciate the great work that they do.
See, Dan, you're the chair this year, correct?
Yeah.
Why don't you stand up and Dan?
I'm chair. I live in District 3, which would primarily overlap Ellen's area.
Oh, District 3 of the rec
District
center.
3 of the rec center, yeah.
Okay.
And then you guys know Melissa. This is our HR director. And Lisa, she's our assistant executive director. She's the real boss when it comes down to it. We know that. And then Patty Hansen, she's the newest member to our council. She just lives over here off of 27th and 14th.
Great. So I hope you'll maybe think of some questions. We have about a 20 minutes scheduled for Ben, and any questions you might have about how this, how he works, how this relationship works, please bring those up.
We're getting close.
Okay. We might rely on jokes from Sean.
Where's Tim held back?
When you need him, right?
Well, no, I would know Patty worked at the rec center for years and years, and then took a stint out of the Kearns Ice, that whole service area that they have out there. She figured she needed to come back, and so she ran. Well, yes, retired.
Just to give you reference, I was in Mrs. Butterfield's art class, which is the second level up, and watched the dignitaries with their gold shovels. It was just grass there, and they dug those first shovels, and we got a swimming pool. That was a big deal back then. Just the swimming pool. It's come a long way since then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if we're killing time, I will make a comment about the Cottonwood Heights Rec Center. That's, I bought my first house so that I could be proximal to it. And I told my sons, you can never get in trouble because you can always go to the wonderful facilities there. And we held a membership for all the years that I was raising children in my home. So I think so highly of the Cottonwood Heights Rec Center. It's such an amazing facility. We have an Olympic size, we have 2 Olympic size pools there.
Yeah.
In fact, in my previous life, we used to get business that came into the snowbird resort in the summertime, teams that would come from outside of the state to train at the Cottonwood Heights Rec Center pool, things like that. So, I mean, it's got a lot of recognition outside of the state as well as here.
Yeah.
Great.
Great comments, Ellen. Thank you. Ben,
We're ready.
yeah,
Sorry about the delay on
no
that.
problem at all.
I think you did some informal introductions. So let me introduce myself. I'm Ben Hill. I'm the Executive Director of the Cottonwood Heights Parks and Recreation Service Area. I've got a little presentation I'd like to show just to get a little bit of an educational tour of who we are. This is our mission statement. We provide exceptional facilities, parks, and services to improve the health and lifestyles of our community. We have an acronym of our key values that we live by with our staff and how we serve the public. Get that? Yeah. Oh, perfect. So we're part of a bigger association, which is called the National Parks and Recreation Association. You might have heard of it. We get a lot of tools from our national association. The National Association says parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in the community, ensuring the health of families and youth, and contributing to the economic and the environmental well-being of a community and region. which is why I'm in Parks and Rec. You know, I have a master's degree in Parks and Recreation Management. I'm a certified Parks and Recreation executive within the NRPA. But basically, if I whittled that down, I like impacting family. I think Parks and Recreation is the way we can do that. Doesn't matter what makes up your family, but it can greatly enhance who you are and the ability to have a well-balanced life. So a little bit about us. The Cottonwood Heights Parks and Recreation Service Area was created as a local district by a board of Salt Lake County Commissioners in 1967. The creation of the Parks and Recreation District was driven by the residents in the community that wanted more parks and recreational services in the East Planning area of Salt Lake County. Over the past 55 years, the Cottonwood Heights Parks and Recreation Service Area has grown to be a state-renowned park and recreation district with its quality parks and recreation amenities. Just this past year in 2001, we have a state association, Utah Parks and Recreation Association. We received the award for outstanding department or outstanding district in all of the state. For what we were able to do in 2020 with the pandemic and how we were able to come out of that pandemic, still providing services and the essential services to our community. So since the foundation of the Cottonwood Heights City in 2005, the Parks and Recreation District and the city have partnered and collaborated together to provide parks and recreation opportunities that have enhanced the quality of life of our common communities. We do that monthly through our CH2 meeting and also the newly established Cottonwood Heights Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee, where I sit on as a panelist in that and collaborate with the city, as well as having one-on-one meetings with him and things like this of these natures. So tonight we have with us our a couple of our board of trustee members. We got Patty Hansen, who represents District 2, and Dan Morzaleski, who represents District 3. Dan is our chair for 2022. It rotates, the positions rotate every year. They're 4-year terms, and I don't see Bart, but Bart is District 1. So the Parks and Recreation District is an independent political subdivision of the state of Utah under Utah Code 17B. Those are it's governed by elected board of trustee members. The 2022 annual budget was just set over $5 million. There are 25 full-time employees, and depending on the season, we can have anywhere between 180 to 320 part-time employees. It goes up high in the summertime when the pool's there, and when you're not in a pandemic, suffering for part-time employees.
Yeah.
So this is a map that overlays the two boundaries. The purple highlighted area is the Parks and Recreation Service Area. And then you're familiar with the yellow outline, which is the city of Cottonwood Heights boundaries. So you can see that 90% of not over 90% of our boundaries are in the city of Cottonwood Heights. We do have pockets in Murray, Sandy, Holiday, and unincorporated county, but the majority of us reside right in the city of Conwood Heights.
Are you okay if I ask you who sets that boundary?
Yeah, so back in 1967, they just set that boundary then. And then since then, people have been able to annex into the service area, and that's where we get these pockets from these other cities that annex in. We're looking at we've got the gravel pit with the development that's happening. They're looking to annex in. So that's just right in that area, right outside to the north there. Yep, right there. And so we can continue to grow that area, but it takes a process of annexing.
Okay.
It's kind of a difficult process. It's doable, but the opposite's true. To annex out is nearly impossible. Once you're in, you're in. But we would love to get our boundaries at some point lined up with the city. I mean, it just makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is just showing where each of the board of trustees members' districts are roughly. So city council members, you could roughly look at where you serve and where the board of trustees serve and realize who serves in both those areas. As a local district, the Board of Trustees has independent taxing authority, the only way we can impact taxes is through property taxes. We can't touch any other taxes as a local district. Or we can go through the bond process and have bonds with revenue bonds or GO bonds. So over the last 55 years, the Parks and Recreation District has only increased the property tax rate 5 times. We currently derive 47% of our operating budget from property taxes. The remaining 53% is derived from user fees and charges. So the average in the National Parks and Recreation Association of the nation is that you derive about 60% of your operating budget from property taxes. So we are on the good side of this. The revenue that we generate from memberships and programs is doing very well. The 2021 certified tax rate for operation and maintenance was 0.000733. That's only 52% of our authorized legal tax rate. And then our by law is 0.0014. So again, we're doing really well as far as generating our own income and revenues as best we can. So this is a history, for instance, 1986 of the property tax rate history. You can see back in 1986, they had nearly about 72% of that authorized tax rate. And that's slowly decreased over the years. And then every time you see a little bump up, that was when there was a tax increase. But today in 2021, that's just roughly 52%. Now it's kind of deceiving a little bit because the tax to the citizens still felt the tax, because in this time where it dipped, there was bonds that were put out that citizens voted on and approved. So the rate has always been pretty consistent. Minus that this doesn't account for the bonds that are in there. So if we go to the next one, this talks about the bond history. So the residents of the Parks and Recreation District have approved multiple bonds throughout the years to create what we are today. So you can see the number of bonds that we've had. The 2010 bond was the last bond we've had, and that bond was fully paid off in 2021.
What was that for?
That was mostly the indoor swimming pool. So there was a lot of redone of the indoor swimming pool.
The new roof and the locker rooms and that whole, the equipment.
Yeah, so that was nice. We promised, and then this is a good relationship. What we promised in 2018, we went through the taxation process, raised taxes for 2019, property taxes. But we told the citizens at that time that in 2021, the bond would be paid off. And so you can kind of see how we went up for 3 years, and then now the bond's been paid off. So in 2022, we come back to actually lower than we were in 2018, which I think people were shocked that we actually held true to our promise, which we said we would. Now, how do we recover our cost recovery strategy in order to keep taxes low? We recently did this study last year. We took our areas of focus and then put a percentage of how much cost recovery we'd like to receive from that area of focus. So you can see down the very bottom, we've got open access. This is going to a park. So we get zero cost recovery from going to a park. We don't charge anyone. If you come to the park, you get to experience that for free. And then community events, we start doing a little bit, but what's down the bottom is what is common good for the citizens as a whole, and it gets more specialized and individualized as it goes up. So as we get up to the top one, resale, well, we're gonna, if we sell swim goggles, we're gonna have a markup to that above and beyond 100% cost recovery. And then everything else falls in between to make sure we maintain a strong relationship with our revenues compared to our taxes. So that brings us to the Cottonwood Heights Rec Center. It's a 160,000 square foot facility. It's open over 100 hours every week. It's got 4 indoor, 2 outdoor pools, a hot tub, sauna, 5 locker rooms, a family change room, basketball court, indoor running track, fitness room, cross fitness room, which is recently within the last couple of years, cardio room, spin bike room, racquetball courts, ice arena, 2 aerobic rooms, a nursery, and 5 community rooms. The Recreation Center's membership accounts for 27% of our non-tax revenue. So if you take out the revenue of the taxes, then memberships is 1/4 of what we generate in order to sustain ourselves.
Has that been steady or going up or down?
That, of course, in 2020, we took a hit really hard there. Overall, our revenue went down just under $800,000 in 2020. Mainly due to memberships. People weren't sure if they should purchase a membership, not knowing if the facility was going to be open during the pandemic. But it bounced back in 2021. We were like a couple dollars short of our goal, of this goal here. And in 2022, we've already hit our January goals. We think people are back and they're comfortable and they want to be active and be out recreating. So we can also go, okay, how many of those are residents that are buying those memberships and how many are non-residents? And then when we talk about residents, we're talking about those inside the purple area, inside the service area boundaries. So 80% of those memberships that account for that 27% of our non-revenue, non-tax revenue are within the Parks and Recreation District residents. So only 20% are non-residents, which might, some of that 20% could be city residents that just are in that fringe, right? So good to know that we're serving our local community here. So aquatics, there's over 350,000 patrons that use the pools each year. We swim lessons. We have 4,000 youth and adults participating in lessons annually. One of my favorite things to say when we go to conferences and stuff is we actually provide a service that saves lives. If you learn how to swim while you're young, then the risk of dying from drowning goes significantly down. Water aerobics, there's 26 classes per week, over 75 participants per day. We've got swim team, water polo, Greek competition, swim teams, lap swimming, Boy Scout specialty classes, lifeguard training, etc. A lot going on at aquatics. On the land side of things, there's over 45 classes a week. We serve people in the silver sneakers, which are our more senior population, down to our fit kids, 4 to 5 year olds, and everything in between. We have a Parks and Rec kids camp over the summer, has nearly 65 kids each weekday throughout the summer. We've expanded that to be an after school program. We now have a pretty steady flow of kids coming over, participating in this during the week during school. Tennis lessons, pickleball, junior jazz, flag football, racquetball, volleyball, etc. We work closely with our community partners on things that we don't provide, whether that be with Salt Lake County, AYSO soccer, Brighton Cal Ripken baseball, Brighton Little League football, etc. The ice arena, in the winter, we can see over 500 skaters in a 2-hour session. That's still holding pretty true even during the pandemic. People are comfortable. They're wearing masks. Those that don't feel comfortable in that much of a space. But we are seeing a lot of public use of the ice arena. We provide learn to skate lessons, private ice skating lessons. We have clubs that participate, and it's kind of their home ice, which is the Cottonwood Figure Skating Club, the Utah Grizzlies, Utah Junior Grizzlies, which then they teach a learn to play hockey program, and then it's also the home ice of Brighton High School's hockey team.
Do they all pay?
Yeah, everyone, our community partners get a community partner, they pay that rate. There's a rental rate, and the community partners get a little bit of a discount for that rental rate. Now, we provide a lot of community events that we partner with the city, either sponsoring us or us sponsoring the city. That's a list of those. The Thanksgiving 5K is one of the most popular. We're now at 37 years and counting. This last Thanksgiving, we had 1,993 runners, which was a record for us. So even as we're coming out of this, people wanted to be outside and be active. That gets us to our community, our interlocal agreement with the city. So we have an interlocal agreement. As part of the interlocal agreement, we update the exhibit every year. Now, this is the exhibit of the areas that are owned by the city of Cottonwood Heights. For example, Mountain View Park, Mill Hall Park, the new Ferguson Park. Those are all in the exhibit that then the Parks Department of the Parks and Recreation District maintain. And then we collaborate, making sure through CH2 that we're hitting all the things that we need to keep that available and open to the public. So then that brings us to the parks that are owned by the Parks and Recreation District. So we have Anzac Park. You're familiar with that. This is our master plan we did back in 2019. As part of our tax increase, we wanted to really put some love back into the parks. The 2020 revenue loss really put us off the rails of being able to do that. We're grateful for the support of the city through the ARPA funding, that we're back on track to doing a master plan, doing a capital plan this year for Anzac. In the master plan, we had 4 tennis courts. That's now been changed to 2 tennis courts and 3 pickleball courts. They will be lit, and the walking trail gets added down on the north side there.
And may I just ask a question?
Mhm.
So I went out to Anzac Park and just recently, I'm just curious, the lights, the 8 lights that exist on the tall poles, 4 on either side, are they still viable?
So they work, the timer is is the out of date thing. So sometimes we'll get residents that will call, say your lights are on, and it's because the timer throughout
So
the
will
night.
they be demolished or will they be?
We're gonna
kept in
maintain the
place?
light poles themselves and redo the upper lights to save on costs.
Oh, God.
So even with the pickleball courts, how they'll be positioned, the lights, you build new, you'd want the poles right on the line, right where the net is. The pole might be off a little bit from the net to save that cost, but the light will be shined where the players won't notice. But
So there will be more lights or
the
you'll just
pole-
add lights at the top of the existing poles?
Yeah, they'll just be redone. Poles will stay, but the lights will be redone. Bywater Park is another popular park. Just like with a lot of the older parks, we need to get the playgrounds redone at these parks. But this is a home of 3 baseball fields, namely the Riley England Field. The history there, that's a great story for another time. But it's another park that the service area has. Then our Butler Park complex, it's quite large. You got the recreation center, skate park, the pickleball court, and then the fields that are owned by the Canyon School District and Salt Lake County. So just everything going on in the Butler Park complex. So then with all that we do, we have a collaboration with Salt Lake County. Just, it's interesting for people to find out that the land in which the rec center is built on, nearly 50% of it is on Salt Lake County land. So that U-shaped yellow, inside that yellow area is Salt Lake County land that the Parks and Recreation District leases from the county each year, annually. So that allows us to communicate with Salt Lake County to say, hey, we're providing the recreational services up in the Cottonwood Heights East planning area of the county. And the county then in turn helps us with capital projects. So we have a list of capital projects in the last 5 to 6 years that we've been able to receive monies for. The biggest one was through the ZAP process of redoing the outdoor diving tank for $2.4 million. But just recently in 2019, getting the outdoor family change rooms out in the outdoor pool to go along with that was the most recent activization with the county. The next one is just the partnership we have with the Canyon School District. So after school, the Canyon School District, through interlocal agreement, the fields become available for the use of the Parks and Recreation District. If people want to know, how do I rent a field? How do I use a field? They always would call the recreation center. It just makes sense. So the Canyon School District gladly lets us kind of handle all the rentals, all the situations that would happen at any open green space. So it's kind of nice that the recreation center handles it for the city, handles it for our own parks, and also handles it for the Canyon School District. They also have a lease with the rec center to use the ice arena, the indoor pools, the locker rooms, and the racquetball courts to be used as the middle school's PE programs and the high school swim teams. And lastly, we also have a foundation, a nonprofit foundation that's part of the Parks and Recreation District. We recently changed this. It used to be called the Cottonwood Heights Recreation Center Foundation, which kind of narrowed the scope of what it really can do. So with the collaboration with the city, we expanded that to say the Cottonwood Heights Parks and Recreation. This is mainly for sponsorship opportunities for families that are either going through a tough time financially, can't afford to play Little League football. They can come get a sponsorship from the foundation. It doesn't have to be a art program. It could be any program within the city. And the way that we continue to keep the monies good in the foundation is we have an annual charity golf tournament. Our Thanksgiving 5K, we donate $1 for every participant. The Big Cottonwood Canyon Marathon does the same thing. They donate $1, and then the city, gratefully for us, names the foundation as that donation group that gets that money. That's always something that the city annually looks at and decides where does that go, and we're grateful that most of the time it comes back to the foundation. That allows us to then do an annual Butlerville Days sponsorship back to the city to help with Butlerville Days, gold level sponsorship. In the past couple of years, we donated $5,000 to the Utah Open Lands Open Space campaign donation for the Little Copper Canyon land, and the 7 Greenways vision plan of $2,000. It's also the home or the host of the Ferguson Park donation program, where we're getting donation for benches and drinking fountains and bike racks with people's names on them. So that's all happening within the foundation. So I think that's it. That's the end of the presentation. I also acknowledge that we've got our executive team here of Melissa Ruff, who's our HR manager, and Lisa Durant, who is our assistant director. But outside of that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those or anything that you'd like me to cover.
Got a quick question. Some of the parks that are not owned by the city, one of them is Crestwood. And sometimes it's a little bit tough to try to find out who to get to reserve that pool. Is there an easy way to get through the county that just we can educate people on how they can do that and go through that process?
Yeah, I think, so the Crestwood pool is interesting because it's outside the boundaries of the Parks and Recreation District, right? Within the boundaries of the city, but outside the boundaries, within that no man territory, that's just the county. So the county is the #1 contact for that. So mostly would be going through the Parks Department of the county or Holiday Lions Recreation Center.
That's the one that we have to get a hold of.
Yeah, so if you go to the Holiday Lions Recreation Center, they don't have an outdoor pool at that facility.
Right.
So then their outdoor pool is Crestwood. So they utilize their staff to.
Could that ever change and come under your umbrella or not?
It could, but I think it would, it have to be in collaboration with the city because right now our residents that pay our tax, that's an area that isn't annexed in. So we would have to be 100% self-sufficient in order to be able to do Crestwood pool by charges and stuff like that, and or get the residents to annex into the service area. Then it becomes under our umbrella. We could do it.
Every now and then I get a call from somebody that pays but is not in the district. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any consolation I can give to them?
Pays for a membership that's not in. Is that what you're?
Pays, they don't have the benefit of receiving the discount, but they're paying the taxes into the
Yeah. So
service district.
So if someone is in the city boundaries, but not in the Park and Recreation District, they wouldn't be paying the Park and Recreation District tax.
Maybe they were confused about
Yeah.
that.
And what they can do is they can times their home value by that 0.0007.
Mhm.
And that would tell them how much they pay per year. They would pay in the tax if they were annexed in, or would they rather pay the non-resident rate at the rec center?
So it's either or, huh?
Yeah, and most of the time,
It's
in
a
the Crestwood
no-brainer.
area,
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer. You just
Yeah.
go with the non-resident rate. Now, some of the other areas over on the south side, it might make sense to annex in. This gravel pit area makes a lot of sense because then as the new residents move in or the businesses move in, they can go, hey, did you know that you can go down to the rec center and you're part of the service area and you get a discount on a membership?
We'll probably see that then.
I hope so.
Thank you.
What do you have on the horizon, Ben?
We're really excited about Anzac Park. I mean, that's just been something that's we're looking forward to of getting those pickleball courts. One of the ideas is a big demand at the Butler pickleball courts, or I should say Michael J. Peterson pickleball court, is they want those lit. And, we're finally going to be able to provide to the city and the community lit courts at Anzac. Hopefully by the end of the year, right? They'll, probably in the fall, those will be ready to go. Our next goal would then be to get the lit courts up at Butler, because we'll probably popularize the Anzac courts that probably can't handle everyone wanting to play night there. So, but yeah, we're excited. We're excited. We got a new trustee member this year. We've got some exciting things to keep growing, keep doing. So
Great.
One
Pleasure to
question.
serve.
Ellen was down at the Anzac and some of the people in my district mentioned about, is there a possibility of putting a basketball standard anywhere on that project? We know that we have two tennis courts and then 3 pickleball courts. Is there any opportunity there or not?
Well, so the Ridgecrest Elementary School that's right next to Anzac Park, we've always been great partners. We used to
We
be.
just say go west.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the short answer.
Okay, that's good.
The elementary school used to not even have a playground. The kids would play recess at the park. Now they do have a playground. They do have basketball courts up on top where the parking lot is up there. I think there could be some advantages to going to the Canyon School District and saying, yeah, these are great for the kids to play with. How can we make these better courts? I think the ones at Butler, we've got the middle school basketball courts there. but we've also got two standards up on the water tank.
Right.
And the water tank standards are gonna be going away because they're gonna be doing that construction project up there. So it's going back to canyons and saying, let's get these basketball courts even better. And whether that's the city helping and us helping, or the canyons just saying, yeah, we can do that.
So the basketball courts up above the school there at Anzac are open and available. Like I
Yeah.
could have told this young man, oh, you just need to go up the hill right
Right.
there. Okay, I didn't even.
Yeah.
I don't shoot hoops much, so I didn't. even-
Hopscotch. So.
Yeah, there, now I know.
They'll have all sorts of things up there.
Yeah.
You know, but it is in the middle of some parking stuff. But if school's in, it's school property, and same rules of, you know, they want people on their property during school, but as soon as school's out, then it becomes the public, part of the public park.
Well, Ben, thank you. We
Yeah.
really appreciate that. That was a lot of great information, and hopefully the council will stay really engaged, and I think it's a great service and opportunity that we have with you. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for
Thanks
coming.
having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
So we,
You can thank them every time you don't slip while walking into City Hall, because they shovel
they shovel.
here and some of our other sidewalks. So
Okay, the next item, we have a lot of important guests here. So the next item on our agenda is the review of our business meeting agenda. So I'm going to go through that fairly quickly so we can get to some, like I said, some more important guests we have with us today. So after the Pledge of Allegiance tonight that we'll have Scott Bracken lead us in, we will have a special event that I'm really excited about, which is a citation in honor of former mayor, I guess, Mike Peterson. So he will be here tonight. He will be introduced by one of our local representatives up on the hill, Galen Benyon. And I'm just really excited that we get an opportunity to once again say thank you and to honor former mayor Mike Peterson. Can we still call him this Mayor Mike Peterson? Next on the agenda tonight will be a citizen comment period. We're expecting that we might get a few comments, which will be great. And then we have 5 legislative items under our action items tonight. And I'll go through those real quickly. The first one is resolution 2022-08, which is an approving an appointments to the Arts Council. We're excited to hear from our Arts Council in just a few minutes.
Yeah, and one of the appointments is Laura, right over here, and she's here tonight.
Great.
Reappointments, so we appreciate all of the service that she is providing, and then Joy Hendrickson as well there. So I'm recommending reappointments.
Okay.
For both of those, and we're excited to have Laura here to talk in a few minutes.
Great. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate you doing that. The next on the list is the resolution 2022-09, which is declaring a parking permit area on a portion of Racket Club Drive, or resolution 2022-09-D. The first one was -A. This is -D, which would be denying the declaration of a parking permit area. We've discussed this item a lot in our retreat. And I think we've decided that we would like to move ahead with a different option, which would be offering a no parking or residential parking only, something that those who made the petition are fine with as well. So, but we will, anyway.
And if I may add, and we can have council input obviously about this. We are looking at, based on our retreat, a parking and traffic study in that whole area. It may be good to get through that to really make a final determination on what we'd recommend as far as the off-street parking areas as well. And whether we want to limit parking or not. So I would say, I would recommend we probably hold until we get that finalized, and then we can move forward on a number of different things. So that's something we can talk about tonight. Matt's prepared to talk about.
Great, thanks. Matt or Mike, any other additions to that? Okay. 5.3 is consideration of resolution 2022-10, which is accepting a request for defense and indemnification. This would be for Chief Russo. Am I correct on that?
This first one is yes, and Shane can address this.
Yeah, the city was, and well, actually 3 CHPD officers were named as defendants in a lawsuit that was filed, I believe, in November concerning their response to alleged domestic disturbance that occurred, I think in about December of 2018. The plaintiffs have now gone ahead and amended their complaint, which is their right for a certain period of time after the filing of the complaint, to add the city and Chief Russo and a few others. So the purpose of this resolution is to accept the request for a defense and indemnification of Chief Russo. Chief Russo has filed a request for that defense and indemnification with the city, as is his right under the Governmental Immunity Act of Utah. And once such a request is filed, the city council is obligated to act on it within 10 days. So that's what we're doing.
Great. Thank you, Shane. Thanks. Next item is consideration of resolution 2022-11, which is accepting a request for defense and indemnification. And this is for Officer Casey Davies.
And this concerns we're aware, of course, that the family of Zane James filed a lawsuit against the city several years ago in federal district court. They have decided to also file what I would call a companion case in state court. And so that was filed fairly recently, and it names former CHPD officer Casey Davies. Again, he would assert that what his actions were in that incident were within the course and scope of his job duties, and so he has filed a request for defense and indemnification with the city. Again, where the city council is obligated to act on that within 10 days of filing.
Thanks, Shane. Thank you. Consideration of resolution 2022-12 is next, which is approving disposal of unclaimed property or former evidence.
No,
Or Robbie.
Yeah, is this the collection of weapons?
This would be
This is the cash.
the cash.
We audit our evidence room periodically throughout the year and dispose of unclaimed property, weapons, bicycles, that type of thing. We also have unclaimed cards and money that show up that we don't know who the owners are. So we're asking to dispose of that property.
I think what we're,
You know, for public.
I think what we're looking to do is to donate it to a charity, if I'm right.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money.
It's unclaimed money.
Yes, like 250
Okay.
bucks.
Yeah, this is the statutory process for doing this, and the finding agency can donate it to a public interest use, so which is what we're doing.
Okay, cool. Sean, did you have something?
And you mentioned bicycles also. Are they being donated as well?
Well, that's not on this one, but you'll see one. coming
This
out.
is just the cash.
And
Okay, just.
normally those we've tried to donate those before, and then there was competing interest, so it just served us better to send them to T&T auctions. So we normally send it to T&T auctions, and they dispose of the property, and the money comes back to the city.
Thank you. Appreciate that information. So the last time that we'll be considering tonight will just be the minutes of the January 8th work and business sessions. So with that, we will move on to item number 4 on our work session agenda, which will include reports from 3 of our great committees that we have within our city. We're excited to learn about what they're doing and to hear from their chairs and those that have come with them. We're going to start tonight with the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee, and we'll invite, I think, Chair Reed and past Chair Shaw, if I'm right. Is that right? There's, we not have.
She's on Zoom.
Oh, she's on Zoom. She's on Zoom. Okay.
I see it.
Welcome.
Thank you. Jennifer's online. I'm Greg Reed. I'm the acting chair. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight, albeit remotely.
Thank you.
Mike, may I share my screen? I think, yeah, okay, great. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'd like to lead off with in this presentation is a thank you, especially for City Council support. Two major champions of our committee since its inception in 2018 have been Mayor Mike Peterson and Councilwoman Christine Michael. Councilwoman Michael was our liaison since 2018. And as many of you know, Mayor Peterson has a long history of working in parks and recreation. And so it was no surprise when he was elected mayor that one of his first orders of business was to create the Parks Trail and Open Space Committee. With that, though, or that said, our committee has very much appreciated the support of all city council members, including not only Councilwoman Michael, but also council members Bracken, Bruce, and Peterson. And we look forward to working with the new makeup of our city council, including our new council members, Newell and Burrell, as well as Mayor Mike Wickers. And we're also really excited that Councilman Doug Peterson is our new liaison and attended our first meeting of 2022 just last week. I also wanted to thank all of our past and current members. Past members are denoted by the asterisks in this list. But the point being is that we have a very dedicated group of volunteers from throughout the city, many of whom have been on the committee since its inception, and several who have served in elected positions. And these volunteers also represent a diversity of disciplines professionally that are very relevant to the management and of parks, trails, and open space. But more importantly, everyone on this committee is like-minded in this sense of their dedication to a robust and healthy parks, trail, and open space system for the city of Cottonwood Heights. The vision statement for our committee is to promote the creation and maintenance of safe, sustainable, diverse, and interconnected outdoor spaces to enrich present and future generations. We operated for the first couple of years without bylaws, but our first order of business in 2021 were the drafting and adoption of bylaws. As you see, just the introduction of this document on the slide. Our committee has 10 goals that guide our activities. I'm not going to go into each of these on this particular slide because they are the header on the subsequent slides that you'll see in this presentation. Our first goal is to create awareness of existing parks, trails, and open space opportunities. And one wonderful way that we have been able to do or try to achieve this goal is through the development of online walking tours. And this was a partnership spearheaded between our committee and the Historic Committee with significant support by the city's GIS team, Melissa Blue, as well as, of course, our planning staff, who we always work very closely with. So if you haven't yet been on the city's website, I really encourage you to take a look at these walking tours. They're really fun to explore online because there's a lot of history that you can learn about in the city in different areas. I know I learned a lot by walking them. But you can also get out there with maps and explore your neighborhoods following these tours. We tried to augment awareness of these walking tours during Butlerville days this past summer with a guided historic walking tour, where we invited participants to walk one of the pathways with a member from the Historic Committee who was very knowledgeable on the history of that particular area. And that was very successful. We hope to do that again this summer. We also worked with city staff to update the Parks, Trail, and Open Space website, where members of our community can access many of the documents that we've worked with city staff to develop, such as the Parks, Trail, and Open Space Master Plan, which the City Council adopted this past year. And here you can also find a link to those walking tours. You can also find a list of committee members and read background about each of the members on our committee at this website, as well as find our agenda and minutes for each meeting. The second goal of our committee is to create awareness of new parks, trails, and open space opportunities. And one of our new parks that we're very excited about is Ferguson Park, which you heard about in Ben's previous presentation. There was an article in the City Journal about the park. City staff held an open house this summer about the park. And there was a groundbreaking for the park as shown in this picture just this past December. And that should be completed in 2022. We also have tried to create some new programs to introduce citizens to existing and new opportunities in our parks and trails system. For example, we've collaborated with city staff on the Bark in the Park event. Now at this event, there is an fenced off leash area every year where people can enjoy the park with their pets, their dogs, and allow them to socialize in a secure setting. We also offered our first naturalist talk, which is an idea that was developed by one of our representatives on the committee, but had to be put on the back burner due to the pandemic. But we did hold our first event at Butlerville Days last summer, which again was another success, and we intend to hold another event this summer as well. We also recognize that our city parks, some of them are in need of some updating. We did a review of city parks in the past year. But also recognize that with the development of our new Ferguson Park, there was an opportunity to develop a pilot park amenity donation program. And so that has kicked off, and there is the ability to donate funds to help the city purchase bike racks, dog waste kiosks, water fountains, picnic tables, and benches, and potentially have a plaque put on each of these items to commemorate someone special in your life. And there's still opportunities to donate. So I encourage you all to take a look at the website and find out more about being able to leave your mark on Ferguson Park. We also hope that if this is a successful program, that we can extend that to other parks within the system. Our fourth goal is to enhance the interconnectivity of trails in the city and adjacent communities. And one way that we do that is through partnerships with community organizations, as well as working with our city staff and its lobbyists and other municipalities and county agencies to support efforts to extend the Bonneville Shoreline Trail between Big and Little Cottonwood Canyon. This is an area that's still of great interest to our committee moving forward in 2022, especially with the state surplus budget. And we hope that the City Council would support us in that effort. We also provided input on the new Wasatch Rock development near the gravel pit with regards to plant selection, active transportation opportunities, and connection to the future Bonneville Shoreline Trail. I'm really hoping to, as best as we can, integrate this new development into the city and make it as accessible to all community members in all forms of transit, but really trying to augment as best we can foot and bike travel in this part of the city. Our fifth goal was to preserve natural open space and improve the ecological quality of the parks. We are working with city staff in the development of a riparian protection ordinance, and this is tied to the sensitive lands ordinance revision. I'm sure you'll be hearing more about that this year. We also support the preservation of the existing parks, such as the Dover Hills Park, and acquisition of more land to preserve open space in the foothills. So our committee was very happy to hear that a portion of Dover Hills Park will be preserved, although that area around the church will be developed. And we also were very instrumental in acquiring the 26 acres of land along Wasatch Boulevard on the east side of the foothills. One exciting new development is thanks to authorization of the City Council, there'll be a new pollinator garden at Mountain View Park, but rather it's augmentation of existing park area to add more pollinator species. And we hope to also include interpretive signage so our community members can better understand the services provided by pollinator plants and the pollinators themselves. Our sixth goal is to preserve and enhance the character, livability, and safety of the city through parks, trails, and open space. We have a representative from our committee who's also participating in the general plan committee, and all of our committee members have participated in the city surveys related to Cottonwood Heights tomorrow. We assisted the city with a letter to Utah Division of Transportation regarding the city's stance on the Little Cottonwood Canyon environmental impact statement. And we've also supported citizen efforts to work with Salt Lake County to keep Crestwood Pool open in summer of 2021. And I expect that there will be a similar push in 2022. Our seventh goal is to improve accessibility and safety related to our parks, trails, and open space. And so at Ferguson Park and Trailhead and throughout the city, we are working with city staff on wayfinding so that our citizens can find the most direct, efficient, and safest pathways to our various parks and trails. At Ferguson Park Trailhead, we'll also have more ADA spaces at the upper lot since we have the new Ferguson Park parking lot and permitted parking in the neighborhoods surrounding these areas. And there'll be more updated signage because the current signage in the area has been neglected. We've proposed an extension of the sidewalk around Butler Park that has not happened due to various financial and interlocal agreement constraints, but we do consider or keep that in mind for the future, as well as sidewalks that circumnavigate all of our parks, because we know that that's a great way for citizens to be able to get in their steps. And then finally, we know that the City Council has considered bike safety improvements along Bengal Boulevard, and we would encourage the city to reconsider those types of improvements in the next year or two, because urban trails are an important interconnectivity component to amongst all of our parks and trails. We have another goal of identifying unmet and underutilized park, trail, and open space needs. And so we try to keep that in mind when we're thinking about redevelopment or reconfiguration of existing parks like Anzac and McIntyre parks. But at the new Ferguson Park, there will be an off-leash jog area, which had not existed in the city up to this point. I had mentioned already the amenities, so I'll skip over that now. We were approached by an organization to install a kayak court at Butler Park, which is a hard soccer surface. However, we had some concerns about that, as did the City Council. But and so it's not happening in Butler Park. But the good news is that I hear that Brighton High may be installing one, and so that kind of amenity will still be available in the city. But I am happy to report that we will have a hammock station at Golden Hills Park coming soon, thanks to authorization by the City Council. And if that station seems to be a big hit and is easy to maintain at a low cost, hopefully we can install hammock stations at other parks as well. Our ninth goal is to enhance partnerships with other local and regional agencies managing parks, trails, and open space. I've already mentioned a couple, including the Bonneville Shoreline Trail Coalition in relationship to the BST connectivity in the canyons, as well as Salt Lake County, especially in relation to Crestwood Park and the pool there. But another organization that we've been working closely with is Seven Canyons Trust on its 7 Greenways visioning plan, which is creating a regional plan, but trying to better understand ways to conserve as well as utilize and access our greenways along the Wasatch Front tributaries, as well as the main stem Jordan River. we've also participated in the Packet Utah and 9/11 Day of Service, and tried to advertise to citizens when there are these types of opportunities for helping to clean up and improve our parks and trail systems. And so where are we headed in the upcoming year? Well, I mentioned a few of these things already. And so for the sake of time, I guess I've touched on all of them already. So I'll just allow you to look at them, but make a point that we intend to continue to contribute to the Cottonwood Heights newsletter as well as City Journal contributions. With that, I'll just show you our word cloud that summarizes the values epitomized in our committee and take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Shaw. That was really great. I was unaware of all of the things that you all did. So that's why we do this, to make sure that we're aware of all that you are working for. What a great report. And thank you. So Chair Reed, anything from you?
No, we have a very active community. Everyone's invested. You can see the work that we've done there. The master plan is part of our future, and we always point to that when we're discussing options.
Yeah, one of the last items that was talked about was 9/11 Day of Service. I was able to participate in that, and I hope that will continue, because we were able to work with Ben and go around and help clean up parks and do things that help participate in the community. So thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I had a few questions. I'd like to say thank you. The PTOS committee is so important and all that you're doing. And when you say bike safety for Bengal Boulevard, can you describe a little bit more about what you're hoping to accomplish that way?
I'll let Jennifer talk to that one.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I think there was a recognition that Bengal Boulevard is a major throughway for a number of schools, in particular, like Canyon View, as well as Butler Middle, Brighton High, Butler, and even Butler Elementary. As I suspect that the city is also already aware of that issue, because all this year we've seen police officers stationed along Bengal Boulevard reminding our citizens to drive under 20 miles per hour in school zones. And, I've seen that they pulled a lot of people over. So there's a need for a reminder there. The idea here is that we can make these side bike paths as safe as possible, not only for school kids, but for anybody who wants to ride their bike around the city to get from point A to point B. To be honest with you, our committee wasn't involved in detailed discussions on this particular topic. I know the city council had more conversations about it. I just wanted to let the city council know that if it is something that you are interested in taking up again, our committee is interested in working with you.
So not necessarily buffered bike lanes or anything in particular. You just want to support safe routes to school and safer biking on Bengal Boulevard.
Correct. But if that would involve reconfiguration, there would be funding for it. We'd be happy to work with city staff in reviewing any plans that would be presented to us.
Well, and I don't know if anybody else, I don't know what hammock stations are. Could you describe that for Golden Hills Park?
Absolutely. What we've noticed is that there's a growing trend in folks engaging in the activity called hammocking, which is essentially taking your portable hammock, which are pretty readily available these days to buy, and then hanging them up on trees in our public parks. And just hanging out with friends. And especially during the pandemic, it's one way to still be able to socialize and try to do so and not have to worry about sharing germs. So, but it does cause damage to our trees if particular trees are used too frequently, or if hammocks are hung up in an improper way. And so by providing these hammocking stations, we still create the opportunity to engage in that activity while conserving our trees.
They could tie their hammocks to.
Yeah,
Got
you
it.
see in some parts
Okay.
they're wood posts, but yeah, it's.
Oh, got it.
We're gonna go,
activity.
we're gonna go steel post, and I actually got one from Mike Johnson, and I'm gonna do one at my home too.
Yeah.
But it's
that's
kind of
great.
cool. You take your
Oh,
little,
yeah.
your little hammock and you go put it up
Oh,
and,
You're gonna put the slack line temp.
well, that, I'm not
Part on
quite
there too,
proficient
but-
at that. Don't give that. I'm okay to lay in the hammock.
But you put it in a triangle, so you
Yeah,
just
so
get
you have three
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Great.
great. Wonderful. Thank you for answering those questions.
Thanks, Ellen.
Happy to.
Okay, thank you. We really appreciate that presentation. Thank you again. So next up is our great historic committee, and Chair Jim Keachus is here, and I'm also, we're honored to have PBS icon Ken Verdoya here.
Yeah.
Who I consider a good friend. So thank you for coming.
So I need to get him connected in.
Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share what we're doing on the historic committee.
Okay, someone's gotta show me how to get him connected and I don't use this room. Just have to log into Zoom. Are you in Zoom? Oh, I'm not. Okay. Do you want me to log, do you want me to put it on mine then? Or no, I think he might need it. Did you send him a Zoom link? Let me try to do it really quick. I think that will take too much time.
Well, while they're getting set up, I would mention that Jim came and talked to our youth council 2 months ago or
Yeah.
so. It's the first time we've actually had someone from the historic committee come in and talk directly to the youth council. It went really well. The kids enjoyed it. It was great. I think there was information passed both ways. A couple things, you know, you always learn something cool when you're dealing with the historic committee, or at least I usually do.
I have it up.
Great.
Oh, great. Perfect.
So here is. I was looking at the thing. There you go.
Okay. And should I just tell you when I want to advance a slide? Okay, perfect. I will just give myself a reminder here. Thank you. Well, thank you again for the opportunity for Ken and I to share what we're working on with our historic committee. A big thank you to the city, who has been always supportive of the efforts that we want to do, and to our former mayors and city council members and current mayor and city council members for helping us with the initiatives that we want to take on to just continue to preserve and share the history of the city with citizens. So next up, our intent here is to give a little bit of background on what the historic committee is, who we are, and then talk a little bit about past initiatives that we've done and initiatives that we see coming in 2022. So the committee's mission, and this is foundational to our strategic plan and all of the planning and initiatives that we put together, is to support and facilitate the city's intention to identify, preserve, protect, and enhance historic buildings, structures, sites, objects, and districts lying within the city limits. That's the language in the ordinance. What that actually means as far as our committee duties, go to the next slide.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, we have several. We survey and inventory the city's historic resources. We review proposed nominations to the National Register of Historic Places. We provide historic advice and information to the city and its citizens. We advise and assist in the maintenance and rehabilitation of city-owned historic buildings and sites. Under the supervision of the city manager, we apply for and administer grants and other financial aid for historic preservation projects in the city. And I'll touch on this. We're currently engaged actually in a grant-funded project right now through the Division of State History for historic preservation of residences within the city. And then we cooperate in the enforcement of state historic preservation laws. And the last duties page, we cooperate and I'm sorry, that was a duplicate of what the last bullet point. We preserve the city's history by organizing historically related performances, displays, and exhibits. And we preserve the city's history by preserving oral and written histories concerning the city, photographs, artifacts, and the like. So pretty big set of duties for the historic committee to take on. As far as who we are, we have a really good mix of people with really good professional experience and people who have lived in the city their entire lives and bring an enormous amount of just lived experience and family experience to our historic committee. I chair, I'm the assistant director for the Utah State Archives and Record Service, so I bring knowledge of historic records and how to preserve and provide access to those. Obviously, we have Ken, I think everyone knows who Ken is, as our vice chair. We have Carol Woodside, who is our secretary, Beverly Beckstead, Don Cannon, who is our newest committee member and just joined with us in January. Don is the owner of the Cannon Mortuary. Jerry Christensen, very involved at Brighton High School. Gail Conger, who is our institutional memory for our committee. There's nothing probably historically related in the city that she can't answer the question to. And then Jessica Despain, who is also one of our newer committee members. So I wanted to touch on just some past efforts that you may have seen that the committee has put on or the committee is engaged in. First up was the publication of our City Between the Canyons, A History of Cottonwood Heights from 1849 to 1953. This is the book that's available for sale in the city offices. This has been a really good partnership working with the city in being able to distribute this both on site, and we've developed a method for mailing it. And so some of the places that it has gone out to, several places around Utah, Layton, St. George, but just to show, the interest in this for people who grew up in the city or, had family who are from here. We've also had mailings that have gone out to Brookline, Massachusetts, Colorado, Arizona, which I didn't know that was a place, Pocatello, Idaho, and Port Orchard, Washington. So it's had a nice broad reach of people getting the history about this city. We also work to create an annual historic exhibit at Butlerville Days. So this is something that we have always loved putting together as a committee. This past year, for those who were able to see, we had aerial maps of the city through time. So we were able to kind of walk people through the changes to the city that you could see from an aerial perspective.
You also had plat owners, original plat owners,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Which to me was fascinating.
Yes.
That was just such a fun exhibit. I hope you'll keep doing that.
Yes.
Those maps are always cool to look at.
Yes, and a big thanks to the city's GIS department for always helping us out when we've had questions or anything we wanted to do geospatially or map related. It's been a great resource for us. One that I think I missed really quick, establishment of our historic signs throughout the city. So the signs you see as you're driving around the city that tell you this used to be old Butlerville, or our committee was responsible for that, as well as the historic signage that's along Big Cottonwood. So if you ever do that trail walk, you'll see the historic signs along the way. That was a big committee initiative several years back. And then preservation work for historic homes and buildings on behalf of the city. Like I said, we serve, and I'll touch on this in a later slide, but the state offers what are certified local government opportunities, where if a city is qualified as a certified local government, you can apply for grant funding to do different preservation projects throughout the city. Because we have a historic committee that's functioning with professionals on board, we can serve as the city's connection to that CLG program. So we were able to apply for grant funding that we're currently expending to do intensive level surveys of several different historic homes. So we've hired a consultant who is actually going to properties, doing intensive level research on what they were made of, the history of the building, pretty much everything that you would want to know about a building. And that'll just become a permanent record of a historic record of our city. And we'll be able to turn to it in the future and know what was here, what was built here before us. So moving into our committee priorities for 2022 and beyond, big initiative right now. The way we've organized our committee, we've created 3 distinct working groups that are focused on sort of 3 big initiatives that touch these touch points of our committee duties. So the first is our committee archive and our committee archive working group. I'm spearheading this one, and the intent of this is really to build a archive of historic maps, records, manuscripts, photographs, ephemera that will be on site, but that we'll also be able to digitize and put into a digital access space. And through working with the city this year, we were actually able to get into what is called Preservica Starter. It is a digital preservation and digital access platform. So we've been actively working to digitize records, put them into that space. And we anticipate a big publicity push for that this year. We think people are going to be really excited to be able to get their hands actually right on history, to go in, see old school scrapbooks, see historic maps of the city, and do it 24/7 from the comfort of their home, which is where we need to meet them. The next one is to conduct oral histories with community members and add them to that online digital archive. And Ken is spearheading this one, so I'm going to turn it over to him to tell you about that initiative.
Well, what's interesting is that the early work of the Historic Committee for the city of Cottonwood Heights was dedicated just to living in a lifeboat, trying to grab things before they disappeared forever. Family scrapbooks, photos of generational founders that were settling this area. Don't lose any more became their mantra, and they did great work, and it was important work. They preserved it, they held on to it. It led to the creation of the book. The book is wonderful. If you haven't read it, please do. But when I picked up the book, I said, why 1953? Is there a line drawn in the dirt somewhere that says history starts 100 years ago? And that's the only time history exists. I think the men and women sitting around this table know very well. History is today. The decisions you make today, the buildings we will build today are history for a generation, one generation out, 2 generations out. And to have the opportunity to sit down with longtime area residents, people who have been here 70, 80 years, who recall the Depression and walking dirt roads to get to Butler Elementary School, or to when a mink farm was at the corner where a 7-Eleven now stands, to talk with them about those childhood memories, precious human history to carry forward. And so that's our commitment in the advent of an oral history collection, is to put a first-person face on the experiences of this community that we now call home. A couple of ways to start doing that. Certainly, we have a number of great area residents to talk to, but we also have the ability to talk to people who brought this history to life and changed it into new levels by incorporating the city. Why did they incorporate the city? What were the steps that were involved when we made decisions to do our own law enforcement? What were the pivotal decisions that were made then? And so our first 2 oral history interviews are with Kelvin Cullimore Jr., who was a pivotal player in the Drive 4 incorporation and then served the first 13 years as mayor of Cottonwood Heights. And of course, Mike Peterson, 60-year resident of Cottonwood Heights, former director of the Recreation District, former city council member, and of course, as you will honor tonight, just left the role of mayor of the city of Cottonwood Heights. These interviews, conducted in 4K high definition audio and video, will be available online. There will also be digital audio downloads available so you can listen to them. And there will be printed, footnoted transcripts of all of their talk. So if you're interested in saying, what happened with Cottonwood Heights and snow removal back in the first decade of the 21st century, you'll pull up Kelvin Cullimore saying, oh boy, did we have a time. But these recollections inform and grace the next generation. History is what you're making today with your public service. This allows us, think of it this way. A student in the Brighton High School class of 22, able to sit down and listen to the incorporation. A homeowner in the year 2100 says, what's this neighborhood been like? And to listen to a Gail Conger talk about her family's farm. To bring it to life, or a city council member, 50 years from now saying, what were they thinking when they incorporated this place to begin with? To find the answers in a digital archive, I might add, which is the envy of a city in the United States of America our size. A publicly accessed digital archive, easily researched and available 24/7, as Jim says, informing and gracing, keeping history alive, bringing it forward and paying it forward to the next generation. So that's why I'm so excited about being part of this history committee and telling those stories. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you so much, Ken. Yeah.
So just moving on to our other priorities for this year and beyond. What we will be working to, again, complete an exhibit for Butlerville Days. This past year, we also had an exhibit in City Hall in October and November for Brighton High School. We'd like to do that again. October, November is a good time for us. October is the celebration of several different events that align well with us. It's Family History Month, it's Archives Month, and then certain years, November ends up being when municipal elections are happening. So we can have people in the building seeing our exhibits, seeing what the historic committee is doing. We consider that there's high value in that. So planning these exhibits for these two spaces is a high priority for our committee. And then a priority that we want to study this year is to do some study and make a recommendation around what a veterans monument for the city and the city council to consider. We want to look at what's been done in other places, what could work, potentially on the campus of City Hall, and bring forward a recommendation for your consideration. And that is what we had prepared for tonight, but Ken and I are happy to answer any questions or clarify anything that we presented on.
Wow, that was awesome. As a history buff, I loved every second of that presentation. And Ken, I could just listen to you every day, I think. But thank you. And I don't know if there's anything more important than we do for future generations. Then we are in great hands, Jim and Ken. So thank you. Any questions?
Oh, thank you.
At some point, they'll have to take a stab at 1954. Coming closer.
And our next, we're planning on doing 4 to 6 oral history interviews. The pain is that we didn't start this 50 years ago. And that's unfortunately irretrievable. We didn't, but we can match that with a diligent effort going forward. 4 to 6 oral history interviews, just as the way we've outlined, not just with political figures, but men and women who grew up here, who remember what it is. And we're going to start filling in those blanks from 1953 forward.
Yeah.
Ken, it's funny you mentioned 1954. That's when my parents moved here. And
That's why
it
they
was-
picked that year.
It was, yeah, but it was mink farms. It was chicken
Absolutely.
farms. It was wide open spaces.
A lot of gravel and, chasing, as Mike Peterson says in his interviews, going down the sand dunes of what's now Brighton High School, chasing lizards, running through Big Cottonwood Creek, with his pants rolled up to his knees. These human memories touch the lives of the people living in this area right now. And they remind us of what's possible, what we need to preserve, and what we can hope and dream for by working together. Because the history of place doesn't belong to just one person. It belongs to us all.
Boy, thank you. I can't thank you enough. You got us excited. And so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, best for last, right, is the Arts Council. And we are excited for Chair Lara Garcia. And Anne is obviously here, who plays such an important role with this as well. So, but yeah, do you want to say anything, Tim? Or can we just turn it over to him? Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm Lara Garcia. I've been on the Arts Council for a couple of years. And this is my presentation, I guess. I'm going to start with the mission. The mission of the Conwood Heights Arts Council is to enrich the lives of residents by providing engaging cultural events and educational opportunities that foster creativity and passion for the arts within the community. And we'll circle back in the presentation to this mission and talk about how we achieve the mission. This list of names here are the members that make up the Arts Council. All volunteers that live here locally, chair, vice chair, 7 other Arts Council members. All of them are either artists themselves or have a background in the arts, some kind of passion and interest in the arts. So it's a real good, diverse group of people that make up the Arts Council. And like I said, this is circling back to the mission statement. We really focus on engaging cultural events and educational opportunities. And some of the opportunities that we provide are, I forgot theater. We have the theater opportunities, photography, literature, and visual arts events that we try to share and provide for the community members to bring their creativity and talent into, either in one of our venues or one of the events to share with the community. We also are really focusing on educational events to include kids in with the adults from our community. We have the chalk art contest, the painting in the park event, just 2 examples. And then we have that sculpture that we've commissioned for this plaza out here in City Hall that we feel will be a new way to inspire passion for the arts and show how much the city values the arts. So we're excited about that. We are able to have these events mostly through the arts grants of ZAP and UDAM, city funding, sponsors, local businesses and residents alike, and the city liaisons help us out, and the volunteers. So the Arts Council members, sometimes we also get community volunteers that will just help with certain specific events or whatever we need help with. Our venues are the Butler Middle School stage. We have a great partnership with them. We do our summer play there, as well as other large performances. That top picture is a picture of our last year's summer play, Matilda. That's the stage. It's a beautiful stage, a great auditorium. We do smaller events here at City Hall in the lobby or in the community room, like our photography show, our fine arts show, master classes. And then over at Butlerville Days, in coordination with their events, we do some arts events too over there. This is just a recap of some of our major events. There's a lot more going on, but in the winter, our major event is the Christmas play, which we weren't able to do this last year due to COVID, but that's something that we hope to incorporate again this coming winter. The gingerbread contest was a fun thing that we just incorporated because of COVID. We did a lot of it online and it was really fun. In the spring coming up soon here in March, we have a photography show. That's a picture from last time we did it in 2020. In the summer is the musical, which is our biggest event of the year. And this year we're doing Willy Wonka. The chalk art contest takes part in Butlerville Days in the summer and painting in the park. And then in the fall, we have our fine arts show, along with some other little things. But what we're working on right now, we're really hoping to have in-person events. It makes a big difference for art events when they're in person, although we've done a lot of fun online things this last year. We're really excited for our Willy Wonka. We're really hitting it hard with auditions, rehearsals, and preparations for that. We also are really focusing on having more kid events and working with the local schools, possibly forming a community choir or a community orchestra. We're looking forward to seeing the completion and installation of the city sculpture, and also collaborating with the other city committees. The Veterans Memorial was mentioned by the Historic Committee. And then, we've talked about collaborating with some of the other city committees in the future. The photo show and a photo masterclass. We're looking forward to doing more masterclasses related to theater as well, and some literature events. So, do you guys have any questions?
Awesome. Yeah, I know that I enjoy all of that. Everything that you guys offer is
they're
just
fun events.
a great thing. Yeah.
They should be commended for what they've done. It's so fun. Even they had artists painting on rocks and hiding them, and
Oh
it was
yeah.
so popular that it became kind of that people were waiting for you to hide them.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the play, Willy Wonka has always been one of my favorite.
Yeah,
The
I'm
original
excited.
version, by the way.
Yeah.
But no, but you do a great service. Love it.
Thank you. No, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Laura, will you just talk real briefly about the sculpture,
Sure.
just what's envisioned there?
Sure. We've you know, he's the artist that we commissioned is kind of starting over. That is a very, very beginning, brief, you know, casual picture there that he's sketched up for us. But we've taken the tree idea that we were going to go with originally. We scrapped that, but we liked the theme. And so we're taking a cottonwood leaf, and he has this really unique style of using recycled materials and tools and stuff. And it's kind of hard to see, but they'll be in kind of like in the veins of the leaf.
Yeah.
And then the other parts, like you can see it, but it'll be metal, and it will be mounted on a big boulder. So it'll be 6 feet by 5 feet. So it'll be a large leaf, and it will be kind of shaped like in a natural shape, like a leaf that's fallen on the ground on a boulder. And we're going to get more detailed description and plan.
Like
But
the boulder here and then the leaf kind of.
yeah, it won't be like straight up, like a
Right,
leaf
that's-
just straight up. It will be kind of shaped and almost like, yeah,
Like go like that.
kind of, yeah. We'll have a more detailed sketch and plan soon. He's working on it. We're working on getting the boulder as well. So maybe through some donations or discounted, you know, so we're just kind of starting from scratch. So we're at the beginning stages again.
Yeah.
But hoping that it will still be done by summer or spring.
Great.
End of
Well,
spring or
we're
something.
excited. That'll be a fun reveal.
Yeah.
So, and I know you're gonna miss Doug. You've worked with
Yeah,
Doug for a while.
we really loved having Doug.
I think
and
that's
we-
somebody better coming. I'll be there tomorrow, so.
John is here.
We're excited to
I
work with
danced better
Sean.
You'll enjoy working with him, but it was fun. It was really fun to see what you do, and on these committees, you really get into it.
Mhm.
And we've got so much talent with our committee members. It's just astounding of the input that we have. It's really remarkable.
Yeah.
I'll come into the foyer every month and seeing whatever
Yeah.
we're doing next.
The artist of the month was really nice having that out there, and that kind of fell by the wayside recently, but we are hoping to re-implement that. That was a fun thing. I agree.
A lot of things have changed.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Well, thank you, Laura.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate it. Thanks, Sam.
Nice to meet you. Thanks.
Yep, thanks for coming.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we will move on to our staff reports. And the first item that we are going to discuss today is our Title 8 and Title 9 ordinance discussion on animals, vehicles, and just the overall nuisance ordinance. So do we want to have Shane, are you going to address this, or are we going to have Robbie?
Both Shane and
Both
Robbie.
Shane and Robbie. I don't know who wants to start.
Well, we were asked to go over the ordinances in the county or in the city that relate to issues that involve nuisance. I mentioned once before when we in reviewing those, and I can go over some highlights of what the main ones are, but let me just direct this towards the animals and vehicles, and then we'll start there.
Okay.
So that was, and it wasn't even, I can't even use the word weak, but it could have used some enhancements, and that's what Shane did. So we had the existing ordinance, and now it's enhanced by language that says if you leave a animal in a vehicle unattended and endangers the health or well-being of the animal due to heat or cold or inadequate ventilation or lack of food or water, it allows the police or firefighter or animal control officer to take whatever steps are necessary to remove that animal from the vehicle, and it provides for liability for them. It also prohibits transporting an animal unrestrained in the back of a truck, and, just letting them, where they can fall off or hurt themselves in a sudden acceleration or stopping. So they have to be in a cage or be properly restrained. So in the summertime, we often get calls from citizens who see animals struggling in vehicles because the windows rolled up and it's really hot and there's inadequate ventilation and water. So it gives us the ability to enter the vehicle and secure the animal, provide shelter for it, and hold that person accountable. So if there's anything Shane would like to add, that I think that summarizes that. And then I can go on. I know you have some questions about the other ordinances.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, if Shane has any comment as well, I have a question about the animal. Is there anything that addresses somebody driving down the street with an animal on their lap while they're driving? Because that's one of my.
There is, yes, there is. In fact, and I see that. That is funny. You should mention that because they tease me about two things. One, if you throw your cigarette out the window, you're going to get pulled over by me. That is, I have two pet peeves. And the other one is the person who drives with the dog on their lap. It is driving while distracted. And so it's not under that nuisance ordinance, but there is a law that that addresses that because I see that. And for whatever reason, it makes me crazy because I think they're personal animals and secure a second. It certainly is a distraction when the dog is crawling all over him and stuff. And I get that they love the dog. I love my dog. I don't let him sit on my lap while I drive. So,
Robbie, it's now safer for animals in the back of a truck than it was when I grew up riding in the back of the truck.
I was going to say they did put you in the back of the truck.
Oh, yeah.
For different reasons. I would.
Times have changed, haven't they?
Well, now we have to secure you if you're going to be in the back of the truck.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yep.
Shane, do you have
Shane,
any?
yeah.
I don't have anything else to add. I'm an animal lover, dog lover, so I was pleased to be involved in this. I like all of us, I will drive up in a parking lot in summertime, and there will invariably be a dog in a car that just makes me wish I could do something. So.
Okay, thank you.
Now, some municipalities have allowed citizens the ability to force their way into a vehicle or break a window to secure the dog. That we have a good response. I mean, that's actually a bad idea. And it can create a lot greater conflict than you would resolve by doing that. So this is a good.
Chief, thanks for that cigarette issue, because I've been on corners before where there's that many cigarette butts that have gathered together. I always thought, why is that not littering?
It is. There's actually a specific state code that says discharging a lit material from a vehicle. So it's like littering, but there's a separate code for it. And that's what you cite them under.
The enforcement, I know, is tough, but yeah.
You'd be surprised the amount of felony warrants that are associated with the driver who throws a cigarette from the window. So.
Is that right?
Yes. Yes, it is interesting.
So I actually asked Tim to add just general nuisances to this staff report. And the reason I want to know from the council, as I campaigned and talked with residents, I had multiple people saying, is there anything we can do about the house down the street? Go look at that. And so I want to know if you feel like we need to toughen our general nuisance ordinances from where they are now. I don't know, Robbie, if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, let me just give you some basic information on that, because we get those same calls and Tim gets them too, and he has a background in this. So the big ones that we get on animals are no license or rabies. Of course, the dog's running at large, barking at night, and it bites animals that bite. And we're really good. We have good ordinances and we handle all those. Noise violations, Shane has incorporated the Salt Lake County Health Department ordinances that relate to those kind of things. So that ordinance is a general Salt Lake County ordinance. And so that's incorporated by reference in our code, correct? And so
are we allowed to go more stringent than the county or not?
I don't think you are. I think that they take in the same.
I'm not suggesting that we do, I'm just,
I don't know for sure, but in any event, it would make us an outlier and that's where you get into trouble. So I think there's probably safety in most of these things and trying to do things in accordance with established standards like health department standards.
As to the code issues, what you'll get are the neighbors complaining about accumulation of junk runs. You'll get the trucks on the yard, on the lawn too now. Ever since Operation Red, we've kind of got that issue that we never had before, but they do have junks and vehicles on the yards. Mike Johnson will get the weed control and the overgrown grasses, parking during plows, contractor work limit hours, removal of graffiti. It's actually the owner's responsibility. Short-term rentals, big issue, hard to enforce. The amount of people that can live in a home that are unrelated, you get that question all the time. And a lot of them relate back to the health department. Here's one of the issues that we get. Some of these are really difficult to enforce. Like I keep getting the same call on a home where a lot of it's always generated by the cars. It's the cars that make the people mad, the neighbors mad, and then they'll call and say there's 6 or 7 people in the house, and they're renting. And the first thing that happens is we go there. Now Mike Johnson has a meeting once a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is with our code and animal enforcement officers, and he gets the complaints and they go over their complaints, they match up things, and we can have a unified and share information and have a unified attack on it. It was claimed that this is my cousin, we're related, really difficult to enforce. When we do enforce it, remember, we are one cog in the wheel. What we have experienced, or I've gotten some complaints on homes where, without being too specific in this form, where we received a lot of complaints from the neighbors about a home. They're actually valid complaints, and we've gone out and I'd be crazy if they were my neighbors too. But we've charged the person, the home, we've charged the owners, we've cited them, we've sent them to court, but we're not getting the response from the judiciary that we want. And their prosecutors have charged the case, and it's frustrating because we can cite them every day, but if the courts aren't going to do their share, then it's very difficult for us. Like ADU, short-term rentals, Airbnb stuff, we will catch them doing that. And the fine is, the last one was like $85. I'm making $2,500 a week. You're going to fine me $85. This is a big deal.
Cost of doing business.
Cost of doing business, exactly.
Yeah, we've got to change that somewhere.
Right.
Well, it was the #1 thing when Representative Benyon and our state senator Reeby had a town hall meeting in January, and it was rather well attended. I think I brought this up before, and boy, people wanted to talk about those short-term rentals and the ADU, and it was a very hot topic.
It is, and unfortunately, I think the legislature might take some of that out of our hands.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I wanted to give you that background because a lot of times we'll enforce it, but if we're not getting the support on the other end as far as fines and progress, then it makes it appear like we're not doing it to the citizens.
Are we able to set fines ourselves?
To what?
Set fines.
No, there's a bail schedule that the courts use, and that the judge can certainly deviate from that, use this discretion. But they can also keep bumping that and allow them time. Now, and I'll back up and tell you, our philosophy is if we get initial call, sometimes they'll say, oh, there are weeds at this house and growing and they're not taking care of it. You go, then you find out it's a widow lady who lives there. She doesn't have the resources. So we'll try to find a church group or somebody, and they'll help them and we can resolve it. We don't take a hard line and start writing citations or send people to court on those deals.
Good.
But there are those chronic offenders where we do, and we've been successful with some, not all. So I'll leave it at that.
Great information.
I was gonna ask on the short-term rentals, we have licensed short-term rentals. How often do you get issues or calls about the ones that are licensed.
Their license, I don't know that I've ever gotten.
Ever?
I don't know if I've ever gotten one of our licensed ones.
Which actually would be consistent from when we had just started it. The ones that are licensed are just in keeping the license, and they tend to do what's right.
They follow the code. Yep.
Which I think one of the biggest advantages to that particular thing was, I believe you have to have posted in a fairly visible spot who the local person to contact if there is a problem. And because they want to keep it, they want to continue to have that revenue source, they tend to be on top of. But obviously, unlicensed, there's no way to do that.
Wild West.
But that's why I asked that question. I just wanted to.
Well, that's interesting because some people argue that other municipalities license them all, let them do it, and then enforce it that way. And that's never been our philosophy, but they'll try to argue that that's.
Well, there's a lot that don't allow it, and they're still there.
But are there other cities that allow the under 30-day short-term rentals?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, many communities do. I served on a subcommittee with the Utah League of Cities and Towns about this, pushing for legislation at the legislature. And yeah, there are many that allow them.
Along the Wasatch Bench here?
Even along the Wasatch Bench. I mean, especially in areas like Park City and other, they definitely have a lot of licensed ones, but there's a number of issues that we're working on. One is the enforcement and being able to have the tools to enforce using things on the internet, and that was repealed a couple of years ago. So that's one issue that's being discussed, but also the impacts on housing and the number of homes, and that's a big issue at the state legislature. And so
They're
that's one
taking
of
off the
things.
market. They're taking right off
Yeah.
the market. And do you think we're leaning towards them hurting us on the legislature or helping us?
Well, that's a
That depends on which side of
mandate.
the,
That's a good question right now.
Well, I'm afraid
Short-term
it
IOU
is
is
not
set.
going to help us. That's what I'm worried about.
They want to mandate.
Well, the mayor and I are both talking about that, but when you think about the number of homes that especially up on the bench here and all over us, but especially on the bench, that are taken off the market to somebody to purchase that home because somebody owns 4 or 5 homes that they're renting out for $500 a night.
Yeah.
And it's difficult and frustrating to have that taken out of our hands completely.
In fact, the league has initiated a study with the Kim Gardner Institute to evaluate the impacts on housing in the state.
Yeah.
And some of that data hopefully will help lead to some modifications in the.
But not in time for this session.
It hasn't been, it's not public yet. They have the data. They've been sharing it individually, I believe, with some of the legislators, and we'll see what happens, because there's some bills up there that are being registered to address some of these issues, and then there's some that are looking at bills to allow more options for short-term rentals.
The mayor and I were both concerned when they started saying, okay, youth council, I'll stand up. How many of you want to live in Utah?
Yeah.
And we thought, what is the object of that? Because I've got 2 kids, well, maybe 3, that are having a difficult time thinking of purchasing a home in Utah. Because if you already have a home, then you've got some leverage. If you don't have a home, it's very difficult.
Thanks, Doug. So I think we need to move on. So we'll have, in a couple of weeks, right, we'll have a resolution with the changes that Shane has done, and we'll
May
vote on.
I just ask one quick thing
Sure.
before we move on? Because one of the key things that I hear from constituents in District 4 related to nuisance and noise is related to the speeding vehicles on Wasatch Boulevard, since there's nothing to slow them down or stop them, in essence, from the traffic light at the swamp lot all the way up the canyon. And so there's neighborhoods who are subjected to unmuffled vehicles, racing cars and trucks who, get to speeds. I think when we did the speed study on Wasatch Boulevard, the highest speed was 77 miles an hour, but it's not uncommon as people, enter and exit. So I know that's related to transportation. But in terms of noise and nuisance, that's the number one thing I'm hearing from my constituents.
And to resolve that, from time to time, you'll see us work again, because those are under the health department. And quite often, as far as the noise part of it goes, we have to work with them because they have the meters and the decibel meters and the way to monitor that and help us enforce it. So I have set up checkpoints like at the mouth of Big Conwood, because I get the complaint of the motorcycles going up and down Big Conwood. And so we do that from time to time. And I'm happy to run those kind of operations this summer again in conjunction with the health department, and we use
Well,
UPD.
amazingly, we even hear them in the wintertime. Again, I'm referring not to the Prospector Square area, which I think you're mentioning with Big Cotton Canyon. I'm mentioning the southbound traffic that is going, south on Wasatch Boulevard, south of the traffic light there at the Swamp Lot 3500, where 3500 East comes into Wasatch Boulevard, and they gain speed and they're just roaring up past the high T intersection and roaring all the way up toward Little Cottonwood Canyon. And that happens even in the wintertime. We hear that into the wee hours of the night. So it is a big challenge for, again, the neighborhoods along Wasatch Boulevard in the Golden Hills corridor of Wasatch Boulevard, as well as the northerly section by Big Cotton
So
Canyon.
they start on Creek Road many times at about 11:30 to midnight.
So you hear them too. I mean,
You're talking
it's
about
a,
speed, right? Not noise.
well,
Well, you hear
it's
they're both
it's the
associated.
speeding and the revving that creates the noise. So from an enforcement point, yeah, maybe they're exceeding 50 miles an hour. That's partly why we need a lower speed and traffic calming measures along Wasatch Boulevard, roundabouts and things that force these vehicles. I mean, literally, that's how people will feel comfortable driving, is because they see the approaching roundabout. So they don't really say, darn it, why do I have to drive slower? They just say, oh, I need to drive slower. Because again, as we often talk about, to expect your department to enforce and catch every unmuffled car and all that, that's probably not being.
Thank you, Ellen, our chief.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, we're happy to help you with that. In fact, it's a good idea for us to do it, because many of those cars that are speeding and making noise late at night in that area are probably also impaired. So I'll send the guys up there and we'll do some.
Or they came from my neighborhood.
Yeah.
But you're getting your roundabout.
Yeah, but the speed
That will
limit is
make it-
40,
that will
isn't
make-
it? Is it 40?
Wasatch is 50.
It is 50.
Well, it depends on which section.
Well, there's only the curve at south of Kings Hill that's 40. Everything else is 50. From the time you leave Fort Union Boulevard, that northerly, it says 50 miles an hour right at that. As you go up that hill to Bengal Boulevard, 50 miles an hour, and then it's 50.
So it's not 50 from the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is.
But not going up Big Cottonwood Canyon, but going on Wasatch Boulevard, if that answers it.
So thank you. So Andy, thanks for being patient. We have our senior planner with us, Andy Holka, and he is going to present to us on a Mid-Valley Active Transportation Plan.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Welcome, Andy.
Let me share my screen. So I'm Andy Holka. For some of the newer council members who might not have met me yet, but senior planner. I have been here with the city for about 5 years now. I grew up in Cottonwood Heights, went to Butler and Brighton, so I love it here. Really great city to work for. So in the interest of time, I'm going to give a very quick overview of what I'm presenting tonight, which is the Mid-Valley Active Transportation Plan. What this is a regional master plan for active transportation, so walking and biking, non-motorized travel. Covers 6 cities. It's not only Cottonwood Heights, but Midvale, Taylorsville, Murray, Holiday, and Mill Creek. This, as I said, not a city plan, a regional plan, but we supported it. We're part of it. This was funded by Wasatch Front Regional Council, prepared by Avenue Consultants. They've prepared a separate document for each of the 6 cities that each city can individually adopt as part of their general plan as an element. So this is what's on the website now. We've got a few updates to our city's portion that I'll go over here quickly. But just in essence, it's a plan to try to connect all of the cities, destinations in the city so that people can walk and bike safely, regardless of your ability or skill level. It's been going, this plan has been being prepared since 2019, lots of workshops and meetings. You can see they did a bike tour, and our senior planner, Matt Taylor, who was the senior planner before me, was part of that. Came through our planning commission in October of last year, and then again in January, where they recommended approval. So part of the plan is just making recommendations for the different levels of active transportation infrastructure. There, you can see on the screen, options range from just a sign in the road to a completely separated multi-use path. And as you all know, people in Cottonwood Heights, walking and biking is very important to them. One of the surveys that was done as part of this study was if there was good, safe, active transportation infrastructure in your area, would you use it and how often? And the vast majority of people said they would use it every day if they could.
So who took that survey?
That it was part of the survey for this plan
For
by
this,
the
okay.
consultants. Yeah,
And was that narrowed down to that specific area?
he has
Or-
results from each city, and I think
Oh, okay.
I can pull those up and get those for next time. But it was something like 75% said they would walk or bike every day if there was good, safe ways to do so in their neighborhood. And I'll toggle back and forth a little bit here between the maps, but this is the most up-to-date map. What you'll notice, I think, first is there's a lot of orange on this map. Orange is multi-use path, which correlates loosely to what you'll see on that level 1 protection. So things that are grade separated or separated by a barrier or, by park strip or something, separate from cars so that it's safe.
What are the difference here? Just the width, this is just a curve and this is a curve plus one.
Yeah, you can see that. I'll try to zoom in here. I don't have my mouse, but the raised cycle track, you can see there's a curb here and it's a separate asphalt kind of trail. This is essentially what we have envisioned for Fort Union. And then this would be if
Oh,
we
raised
took,
and curb set, okay, all right, I missed the raised.
Yeah.
part.
Yeah,
if you-
Now I get it.
The new
this
townhomes
isn't
on
really a
40.
raised curve, isn't it just strictly a raised asphalt area, or is that an actual?
most of these typically have a curb. So you have the road and a curb, and then however many inches above the level of the street will be a path for bikes. Whereas a protected cycle track would be if we took one of our buffered bike lanes. This was talked about in the Parks Committee presentation. Was one of the considerations was we have nice buffered bike lanes on Bengal Boulevard. What if you put like a planter or a bollard or something to just give that additional level of separation, safety?
I'm sorry, on Bengal Boulevard?
That's, an idea that was proposed by the previous council.
Oh, I thought you said we have it, and I was thinking, oh, where do we have that?
We
On
don't,
Bengal.
we
We don't
have,
have it, but somebody proposed, why not?
Mhm.
Perhaps they wanted to go with the protected, with the second from the right. Is
yeah,
that what you
it's
said?
been considered in the past,
Uh-huh.
right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And so the orange color
Okay.
loosely correlates to those more safe and protected. So we made a real push to get that orange color on this map as much as possible. It's consistent with our recently adopted Parks, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan, as well as other corridor plans. We have our Wasatch Plan, Fort Union Boulevard Plan, and our previous Bike and Trails Master
So if I
Plan.
may ask, so when you say the orange, this is something you want to accomplish eventually. Is there any timeline to any of these things?
I don't know if we have a specific
Yes, it's called
timeline on
money,
this.
money.
So
But
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
would be
Priority,
this-
priority.
yeah, this would be a master plan, and then we would work at the council's direction to implement the master plan. So this is the high level.
Will this be part of the general plan, or it's its own separate plan?
Every master plan we adopt and call it an addendum to the master plan. So yes, it has that same level of authority. It's just a more focused topic, either by area or by subject matter.
And do you see this being focused on by the council, or would you urge the council to focus on this in 2022?
Certainly as staff, once a plan's adopted, we work and make proposals to implement. Whether it's development requirements or seeking funding or
talking about in council priorities. There's multiple ways to achieve it.
And if I may say, one of the things that you're gonna have to look at is approving this section of it as part of the plan. That's something that you're going to be looking at 2022. And then we've had priorities that we've just gone through, but then we'll have to look at how the implementation would occur. So
And this came through the planning commission,
Yes.
and who wrote it down, who designed it? Was it the
Yeah,
PTOS?
it was a consultant, Avenue Consultants, because it was spanned 6 cities. So the idea is basically we plugged in what we already are working on as a city. A lot of the other nearby cities don't have master plans for active transportation, bicycling, or anything, any corridor plans. Whereas we did, we had a lot to work with. And so really what we've tried to do is to make sure that this new plan is consistent with what has already been approved by this council and previous councils.
May I ask one more question? So the dark green that says shoulder bikeway, is that considered level 2, a shoulder bikeway on the?
Yeah, I think, that would
level
just
2
be
shoulder
it's
bikeway.
just, there's a shoulder to ride on. So I guess that's most of it. I won't take too much more time, but again, with this being a master plan, this is long range. It's not a specific plan for a specific trail or bike lane necessarily, but it guides us and gives us direction as we make land use decisions, helps inform the council as to which projects to focus on. And so, we feel like this is something that's been extremely popular with the residents. People are very excited about parks and trails, as you've heard already from several of our other committees. And so we've made a few changes, just quickly to point out what has been changed since the Planning Commission looked at it. We've added this pathway along Creek and Danish and through Siesta. That's what was recently approved as our little Cottonwood Trail that kind of went, instead of going through the neighborhoods, followed the streets. And so we've got that here. We've also got Highland Drive marked, as well as a trail along the north side of I-215, which was an idea that was proposed by our Parks Committee and included in the open space master plan.
Isn't there already a sidewalk for a good part of that along I-215? I've ridden my bike on that.
I don't know about this segment. What was envisioned is actually in the right of way for the freeway, similar to Parley's Trail on I-80. A lot of people have ridden on that. It's a very popular biking trail. So we'd like to do something similar along I-215 here.
Great. Well, thanks, Andy. Do you have more, or was that?
That's all I've got. We can, of course,
Fascinating.
get into more depth at the next time this is presented. But
Yeah.
just want to introduce that to you so you know that we're working on it. Should have more updates for you soon.
Brain is churning, so you're right.
We will distribute this plan, copies of the presentation plan and everything. So you have time to look at it,
Right.
review it. before
Thank
we send it
you.
back.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, next on our item is, we'll turn over to Mike, our Community and Economic Development Director, on clarification of Planning Commission bylaws.
Thanks. Very quick. The city council is the authority when it comes to establishing rules and procedures for committees and commissions. The planning commission has a document that are its bylaws, its guiding procedures. In that document, it has a procedure for how to elect a new chair of the commission and when they take their position. The procedure states that the new chair is elected in January, but doesn't take their seat as chair until July. So at the last commission meeting, the commission did elect a new chair and vice chair, but the current chair has requested that the new chair take his seat at the next meeting, which is tomorrow, rather than wait till July. She
What
would
was the
prefer-
purpose in doing that anyway?
I believe the July date is that's when the commission terms generally renew.
That's what makes sense.
So we don't have to change the bylaws, but we do need just informal council consent to allow the new chair, who's Jesse Allen, to take his position as chair beginning tomorrow rather
Is
than.
Jesse
wait for
Allen
July.
already on the committee?
Yeah, this is all existing commissioners. It's just they elect from within themselves who is the chair and
And
vice
who
chair.
was nominated for the vice chair?
Dan Mills.
Oh, Dan Mills.
So
Okay.
do we just need a consensus or do we have?
So
to
I
go
kind of
through-
just need an informal nod to make sure the council's
If we say we
okay.
don't like Jesse because he moved from District 3 to District.
We just wanted to make you aware of this because they're wanting to do something a
And,
little different.
yeah, anybody have any issues? I'm good. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Okay, last item. Well, before, next on our list is a review of calendar and upcoming events. Just a reminder, we mentioned during our retreat, City Hall will be closed Monday, February 21st in observance of President's Day. Our Arts Council mentioned the Willy Wonka play that they'll be putting on. Auditions for that, if you know anybody, will begin March 11th and 12th. A fun time for those in the theater. And then last, the dates are set for our Cottonwood Heights Butlerville Days, July 28th, 29th, and 30th. And volunteers and sponsors are needed. There's a website that you can direct them to, butlervilledays.com, or get in touch with Ann, who obviously does such a great job of coordinating.
I would just, Thursday, we have the youth council dinner. You replied, I didn't know if that was to the morning or the evening, but are you just?
I can't.
You can't come in the evening.
Or the morning. What time is the morning?
I think.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to plan out, just so we make sure we get
And
enough
where will that be held? Will that be?
community. room.
right up in the community room?
So you'll be here, you're gonna make.
Actually, I can make it.
Okay, Mayor, you're gonna be there.
Yes.
What time do you want us here?
6.
6.
Yeah, and if I may, on this week, on Thursday, we're gonna have the legislative discussion. That's via Zoom. We have to notice it as a public meeting. How we've done it in the past is if you can't make it, it's not overly critical.
What time is that?
It's at 9 a.m. on Thursday. And so if you can't make it, that's fine. We'll hold the meeting. It's an update from our lobbyists, just giving us an update on where we're at with some of the issues. Usually it lasts 30 minutes to 45 minutes. But just keep in mind, if you do have other things that you're doing, we'll hold it and we'll still
I'm
keep.
planning on that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know we have something in the morning for you.
Oh, okay.
Don't they have school?
The morning under the use, are you talking about the morning use city council? There isn't a morning thing.
No,
There's
no,
just-
6 p.m.
just at the six.
No. I got mad enough at them when they wanted to go downtown to the state legislature. 6:45.
One more quick item on our calendar I want to mention. So we are looking at our second meeting in March, which would be March 15, of moving that to March 22nd. And the reasoning for that, there is a National League of Cities.
You don't want to have anything on the Ides of March?
Sure, that, yeah.
Brutus.
There's a National League of Cities and Towns Conference in Washington, DC. And Tim and I mentioned to Tim that I would really like to go. I don't know if there's a more important time where we're aware of funding, infrastructure, things that might be on a national level that we're not aware of. And so I asked him that if we could go. And I wanted to mention, not only that, in the future, I think if we find it beneficial and worthwhile, we might put it into our budget to bring council to that meeting. We might split it up, 2 1 year, 2 the following. But I wanted to just mention that that's something that we want to look at. And Tim and I will go and do that this year. And if it's okay with you, with everybody, we'll move that council meeting to the 4th Tuesday instead of the 3rd.
And it's a 5-week month as far as Tuesdays,
So we'll
so
still have a.
we'll still have a not 2 weeks in a row. We'll still have an every other week if we move it to the
I really
20th.
don't want to see you people 2 weeks in a row.
This is 22nd.
Yeah.
And actually,
That work good? We're good.
Coming back.
Well, it actually isn't.
See, okay.
What's that?
It doesn't. You said February, or you could just do that March.
March. March
Okay,
15th.
well, I'm just off an entire month. Let me see.
Yeah, March. From the 15th to the
Okay.
22nd.
Scott's so excited about Groundhog Day, can't even think straight.
Okay, so we do have an item to talk about in a closed session tonight. And so That purpose today will be to discuss property acquisition. So if it's okay, I will entertain a motion to enter a closed session. All in favor, say aye.
Well, we-
We need a motion, sorry. I will accept a motion and let's do that first. I will accept the motion. Did I hear that?
I would move that we close the open session and open a closed session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters.
Second?
I second that.
Okay, and we won't actually close the work session until after, right? Or does it matter?
Did you just do that?
I did, and he said second, and then we get,
So-
then we, and
so
then
then
we
we
get a
can do it.
roll
Okay.
call vote.
Great. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And great. We will move to a closed session.
Really quick so we can have dinner.